Welcome everyone to today's user group meeting, Microsoft Copilot user group. Welcome. Couple quick housekeeping things. Toilets are out the doors, down the hallway, to the right behind the lifts. Foyer and session areas, just keep clean and tidy. And evacuation, if the sound goes off, follow LV, the reception lady who's been buzzing around. Don't use the windows, just make sure you do what she asks. We will be recording our session. It is recording at the moment, and I will be posting this one up as soon as I can up on YouTube. It just depends on how quickly I get the file from Microsoft. As we've been playing with the audio, the room audio, I sometimes come through this microphone. You guys will come through the roof microphones. So you have a question loud and clear. It's more clear than loud to be picked up. That's the only thing with the room audio. It's a little bit sensitive in that area. But other than that, thank you very much. My name is Daniel Brown. You've obviously found me somehow, or I found you somehow. And now you've found me. So a bit about myself. I run the two user groups, the Copilot one and the M365 one. Microsoft MVP certified. I've been playing with Windows since 3.0. A long time ago, Office, I've deconstructed and reverse engineered most of that stuff, and I also run my own modern workplace consultancy as well. Very active online, LinkedIn, blog, all that sort of usual lovely stuff. Our user group, the Copilot one. Cool, the recording has started. Cool. We meet on the first Wednesday of every month, with the exception of January being obviously probably not a good one to meet. And we are always on the lookout for topics. We do cover Copilot as a general thing, so not just Copilot for M365. It's Copilot, Copilot Pro, like Copilot Freebie, Copilot Pro, Copilot M365, and if I'm feeling generous, probably also Azure AI in that scenario too. Mainly because AI is very broad in terms of Microsoft's perspective, so sometimes Azure AI bleeds in with Copilot. But it's very much a group about Copilot and AI in general through the Microsoft lens. Focus on all clients. And we've got social meetup, AMCUG, hashtag. Feel free to take photos, post them up. The more we get, the better. Quick one of what or how people are using Copilot around the state. So I've done a little bit of tweaks on this as well as things have come to my light. But a lot of Copilot is being used to summarize email, generate documents, generate summaries of documents, meeting transcripts, but people are using it to create various different bits and pieces as well. You know, images, for example, computer vision stuff, the whole drafting, the quizzes. The quizzes is cool. Point it at your policies and procedures and make a quiz bot on that. That's pretty cool. The images and the computer vision, I said, the latest one I've been working on is alcohol distilleries with computer vision, looking at the distills for bubbles and blemishes in the actual still itself. And if that detects it, then the buzzer is rang, someone is notified. So very cool stuff with computer vision, and also GPT-4 that we've been doing is around the state as well. Little bit different because I do run two user groups. We've got the M365 user group and we've got the Copilot user group, third Tuesday of the month. That's been running for 17 years, give or take. It has evolved from the SharePoint user group to the Office 365 user group to the Microsoft 365 user group, and very much is focused on 365 because I was a SharePoint guy in past life. It is still very much SharePoint focused, but it is M365 focus. Speaker lineup, David and Heidi today. I'm twisting Jeremy's arm. However, he may send someone in his replacement in November. And October, I've still got to solidify a speaker. I've got some in the wind, but stay tuned for that one. And December, we're having a joint user group meeting between 4 user groups, 2 of mine, but also the IT Pro user group and the Azure user group. We're looking at having something, yet again, third Tuesday of December doesn't really work well for most people, so it will probably be earlier in December, but it's going to be a Christmas gig. It's not going to be your typical sort of user group meetup. Twisting Microsoft's arm, hopefully. Newsletter, if you want to join the newsletter, jump on that, jump on the list and subscribe. We've got topic submissions. If you're looking for a particular topic, let me know. I can find a presenter for you. And speaker submission, if you want to present, feel free to come and present. I've got no qualms as long as you're not a salesy pitch. And even if it's just 10, 15 minutes, I'm happy for that. Something that's worked, something that hasn't worked, something that's cool, not a problem. People love to learn at all different ways of doing these things. So very cool. Social media, as I briefly mentioned, AMCUG, we're trying to get the whole Microsoft Adelaide Microsoft community hashtag going as well, just to keep everyone sort of in the loop on what's actually happening around with Microsoft. And we've got our sponsors, Microsoft, Archinosis, and Glowing Octopus Solutions, which has donated the board game that I'll give away. And we did have the t-shirt as well from Microsoft's AI Summit, which happened last month on exactly the same day as the M365 user group. So no one was here last month to help run the user group from the Microsoft side, so I couldn't run it. They were all at the AI Summit. And a list of, I'm ripping through this because I just want to make sure we've got enough time to get through Fabric. But we've got a whole bunch of user groups here in Adelaide. They meet various months. There is a LinkedIn post with all the dates and who to contact. If you are into security, we are looking for a security user group lead. You'll have 5 or 6 user group leads supporting you. If you've never done it before, feel free to stick your hand up. But none of us want to run another user group. We want someone to actually run it. We'll help support, not a problem, get the word out, but I can't run a third user group. So just keep going. You're on there. Power BI. You're Power BI. Yeah, see? Oh, yeah, done it. Sorry? What? Oh, and Fabric. Fair enough. Bringing events to Adelaide, as people may have seen last month, the AI Summit. It was a closed event, unfortunately, only for SA Gov employees. And that's why we're trying to get the whole Adelaide, and that looks really wrong, AD. Yep, I've spelt that hashtag wrong. So don't use that one. But the more events, the more pictures, the more things that are happening that Microsoft HQ can see, the attendees, everything like that. We will get more and more events from Microsoft's perspective if we can sort of start that snowball up. So take photos, hashtag, begging you, not begging you in that sense, but the better engagement that Microsoft can see from the community, the better. Wave 2, that got announced overnight. So we're going to see Microsoft 365 Copilot Wave 2 on the 17th. It's actually at 12:30 to 1 a.m. So yes, I will be up. I'll be dialing in for that. But expect some big announcements around Copilot, mainly around Copilot for the 365. There will be other ones that obviously come through. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting night. That one. Virtual AI Tour again is kicking off. There we go. We've got Sydney happening on December 11th. This is a new AI tour from Microsoft as well. 1 city per country, and Sydney got it as expected. So we'll see how all that goes. But if you're going to head to Sydney, feel free to attend. NZ Conference, the Digital Workplace Conference, has been announced as well. It's on 18th and 19th of March next year. So I couldn't remember the dates. We only just had our Australian one at the end of August. And yeah, great event, 40-odd professional sessions and 1,000-odd attendees. Happening in NZ in 2025 and will be happening again in Australia, I believe, Melbourne, but it won't be till August, sometime in 2025. Dates haven't been announced. Big Power Platform Conference happening in Las Vegas. If you're traveling there, I don't think this one's actually online, so you'll have to go there to do it, but expect announcements. Sorry?
The September 18 to 20 is in Europe, Fabric Conference in Europe. It's the new one. It was announced late. But if you shift that to April, end of March 2025, it will be in Vegas next year.
Okay. All right.
We did one in Vegas. It's the first, Power Platform Conference is in Vegas. There's a Fabric Conference in Europe at the same time.
Yeah. Cool. So that's going to be fun.
But they're 2 of the newer conferences. So the Power Platform Conference, I think, is only in its third year.
Third year.
And the Fabric Conference is only in its first year.
So yeah, it's
super cool day. Data's in all of them, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Sucks, but it's awesome.
We've also got Microsoft Ignite happening. Big one. That's obviously online and in person. It will be late night as well, that one. We'll probably be doing a watch party if anyone wants to attend. Um,
If you've never attended these, the other thing to watch for, so they announce the schedule, but click through all the menus because sometimes there's opportunities to talk to engineering staff or support staff, and you can basically book a Teams call with someone behind the scenes. They fill up really quickly,
yeah,
but people don't realize they're there. So that's the other thing to attend a lot of these conferences. The people that Microsoft send to the conference as presenters, those are usually people in the product teams doing the vision and the rollout for the actual product you're working with, as well as some of the support people globally, which if you don't know of the customer advisory team, it's the team that handles the biggest problems in the world and they get flown all around the place. Australia happens to have, I think, three CAT team members in the eastern states. If we count New Zealand, we get a 4.
3 or 4.
Yeah, so we've got those in our region. So we've got some pretty high caliber people
Yeah,
on the other side.
it's good.
Of the fence
It's
as well.
good.
But you can meet them at these events.
Cool.
It's not the same.
What's new in Copilot? Whole bunch of stuff. Even though we've got this Wave 2 coming up, they're still doing monthly releases. One of the biggest ones is this risk framework that they've put through. It's still a little bit convoluted, a little bit too deep for most people, but give it time, it will be refined. But it's certainly a starting point to sort of start to look at Copilot from a risk point of view as well. And a whole bunch of end user capabilities have come through. I won't spend too much time on it because there's heaps of stuff online about what's new with Copilot and everyone's getting blasted with it anyway. What's new? There's my blank slide. Yep, text. Didn't hide that one. Microsoft for startups, a quick plug on this one. If you've got a startup and you're looking for potential guidance or a minimal viable product or some Azure credits, reach out to the Microsoft team. Certainly can help you. There was a great success story this week as well of a Melbourne startup getting about $10,000 worth of Azure credits to get everything sorted. Microsoft Learn, once we get there. There we go, Microsoft Learn. Whole bunch of free resources on there, accreditation, skills testers. I could spend quite some time talking about Microsoft Learn, but it is very much worthwhile. You've got the applied skills, which then lead to your certifications. It's actually been very active, probably the last 12 months as well. Microsoft Learn has really picked up. Well worth you get your little badges and everything like that. If you are looking for some Copilot-y prompts, I do recommend crafting effective prompts for Copilot. And on the learning path, getting started with Copilot. It seems a really benign learning course, that getting ready, or is it getting started for Copilot? I do recommend it quite a bit because it does give that foundational recommendation. Other months I've recommended other courses, don't get me wrong, but it's certainly worthwhile. And likewise with that module now is part of a big 30-day not a challenge plan, sorry. And it's essentially a 6-hour course. And that's one module in it. The actual learning path has all different prompts from different use cases and areas within the business. So worthwhile checking out from executive, finance, sales, from their point of view, how are they going to interact with Copilot? And now with that, we've got Heidi and David. So I'll shut up and get out the way. We do have, one last thing. I do have a Copilot t-shirt that we do officially have to give away. We've got the board game as well, and we've got Heidi's stash as well that she's brought in. And we'll draw that after the presentations. So you got to stick around for it. Cool. How do we want to do that? Do you want to plug in?
Yes.
Wait, I shall get out the way and hand over to these two fantastic people.
Give us a sec, okay? We're going to put on another monitor so we'll go faster. Up with the presentation. No, this is another laptop, see?
No, it's a monitor.
Is it?
Yeah, it's my new one.
Hmm.
Oh, hang on, that's
a laptop.
no, that's the bag. The other one.
It is your bag. All right.
This. I was like, it looks the same. That's this.
As you can see, we're ready for the worst. Nice. This is really nice.
Now, I just have to share my tools. How to pick the monitor to share films.
Yeah, look, we're deleting some slides because Daniel said no sales pitch. So now we're deleting a few slides as well. And he mentioned something about Q&A. We were not ready for that. Okay, so there it is. Yeah, we don't need that one either.
See, that is the fourth one, but it doesn't actually like show up.
This is good.
No, that is that one, but it doesn't show up. Just gonna drop it off because that's 2 and 3.
All right, let's see. I'll be your entertainment.
Do it.
So what's your role? What do you do? Any developer syndrome? Developers?
Technically.
No developers? Any people working with Copilot? Yeah. ChatGPT? Anybody working with ChatGPT? Anybody working on the data space with data? Hello? Any leadership role? Okay, I'll be careful with you guys. Yeah, look. Today we don't work for Microsoft, so what we're going to share is based on our experience and our knowledge. So that's important to mention. So the good thing about not working for Microsoft is that we can tell you the things actually that we believe that they are not a good fit right now, or they still have to mature quite a bit to release them in production. Put it that way as we go. So don't feel like don't hold yourself on asking questions. You know that. Is this good? Any good? Is it going to work in my company? Is it not going to work? Because we should be able to cover that from a Microsoft Fabric point of view. I think we need another monitor. How you doing? Good?
That one's you.
Yeah.
And then this one.
Yeah, I think we're good, right?
Yeah, I'm just gonna turn on my fabric capacity.
Okay.
It's annoying. Oh, do you know any change slides? I'll change slides.
Yeah, I'm not Heidi. You're Heidi.
This is me. I'm Heidi Hastings. I'm based here in Adelaide. I'm in consulting. You don't see it there, but my new employer is Avanade. So I currently work for Avanade, a global consulting company. I do data engineering as my main focus, but in my spare time, I'm a Microsoft Most Valuable Professional, certified with lots of certifications because I'm very good at learning and applying that learning to getting certified. So you see 6 there. I have about 15, I think, at the moment, certifications, and also a Microsoft certified trainer. I love all things ALM, DLM, trying to get more in the Fabric space. As David said, we know it's a little bit buggy, but if you're prepared to go on the journey with it and grow with it, it's going to be a really great product in the long run. In the short run, what's the pain? But
there are use cases. Not everybody needs Heidi. Come on, don't put it down.
This is true.
Or you're saying that we'll be from here. We'll be from the ground, and
I think people compare because as soon as Microsoft went and released Fabric, everyone went, oh, this is Microsoft, right? And if you were already using a data platform, you automatically compare everything. So you go, oh, but I do this in Azure Data. And in Fabric, it's got the same name. I do the same thing. And it's like, no. You're better off going, yeah, there's this new product called Microsoft Fabric. Drop Microsoft off the front, put any random vendor name, and then you will look at it differently and go, oh, what can this product do in isolation? Not what can it do comparatively to Azure Data? Because too many people go, oh, I do this in Data Factory today, and I want to move over to using Fabric, and then they try it, and they're like, I can't lift the shift, I can't move, I can't copy paste. What's going on? This is crap. I can't source control the same way because they're comparing it to the SaaS platform. They're comparing the SaaS platform to the PaaS platform. When you think about them as if a different vendor gave you an option of Fabric, you would look at it differently. You can go, what can it do? You're comparing it, but not in the same way. You're not getting as frustrated because you're going, oh, if this was a brand new product that I got the opportunity to play with, yeah, it's not going to act exactly the same as Azure or GCP or Databricks or Snowflake. And so you start to work with it and go, oh, how would I do this? How would I do that? So, and David's exactly right. There are some use cases where it is absolutely perfect. That is true.
Everyone in the room, yeah. And it's being recorded as well. People online.
We're going to make sure we plug your events somewhere in here. If you don't know of David in the Australian data community,
keep going with your.
He totally does heaps of conferences. So that's me. This is David when it comes up, and you can.
That's me, yeah, a few years younger, but still me. Okay, so I work in the data space from the get-go in the IT industry, and yeah, look, I do a lot of data stuff right now as an independent consultant based on Brisbane. Actually, I flew to Adelaide yesterday for a different conference, and now I'm glad to be here. To be honest, second time in Adelaide. I love coming here. Thank you as well to our host Daniel for organizing this with a 1 week notice. I believe, yeah, well done, and thank you to all of you for coming. You're not going to believe this. Yeah, this accent is not from Australia. It's actually, yeah, it's Argentinian accent. It is with a little bit of Aussie slang sometimes. Okay. Yeah, we'll move slow, but what do we have up next? It is. All right. So our agenda for today. So we'll touch basically on the copilots, a little bit what Microsoft Fabric is. We'll talk about pricing as well. I think it's good to talk about pricing. You know, how much is it going to cost if we want to implement it in the organization? And I think I would say 70% of the session are demos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We love a demo.
Am I right?
You'll find out at the end, but yeah.
Okay. Yeah, most of the presentation is demo. So we'll give you some concepts that we believe that you have to learn as part of the presentation, but then it'll be a little bit of show and tell of the different capabilities, and we can have a conversation on where we think that you could start using them, basically. And also our recommendations if we believe that you should wait a little bit as well. So let's move on to this amazing number. 87% of organizations believe AI will give a competitive advantage. Right? Let me give you a different perspective, okay, for this number. Look, not so much from a software development point of view, but also you have to look at this from a cultural point of view. Because if your organization empowers all the employees within the company with AI capabilities, if your organization teaches all the employees how to take advantage of a tool like ChatGPT, wouldn't that be a competitive advantage eventually? You'll become more efficient, more productive. It's going to translate in a decrease on cost for the organization, and they can invest on hiring more resources or doing R&D or developing software, right? But look from a different perspective, right? So if organizations teach employees how to take advantage of some of the AI tools, they will gain a competitive advantage. It's not only software development. Think from those lens. If organizations helps you improve your data literacy as an individual, eventually that'll be a competitive advantage as well. Because many of the other organizations are not spending the time teaching employees how to use AI tools. So I think that's where the value is. I think that's where the return of investment is for organizations as today. If an organization starts AI literacy program or a data literacy program, you know, they will have a competitive advantage against other companies in the same industry. I think that's a different insights that I believe it's important not to forget when we talk about some of these KPIs. Okay, so we do have like when using the copilots, you know this from coming to this user group, right? So there are different copilots. Each copilot it offers a different set of skills, and therefore they are prepared for a different persona as well. So I think it's really important to understand that, because we're going to talk about Fabric today, and within Fabric we also have multiple copilots, and each copilot is developed for a different set of skills. It's up to us. At the end of the day, we might end up using 2 or 3 copilots, right? That we need for being more productive at work. But definitely, you're not going to end up using all of them. And the technology across the board. So you can see, so we have security copilots, we have Azure copilots, Power Platform copilots, There are Copilots, different experiences for different personas. And one of them is definitely Fabric Copilot that you see in the second line. You could consider that Fabric Copilot is part of Power Platform. Will you say that? It is, right? They mentioned, we asked this question many times. They said yes.
No.
They said no?
But Power Platform has its own Copilots.
Okay.
Because you've got the Copilot in Power Automate, you've got the Copilot in Power Apps, you've got the Copilot to help you with Dataverse. So it still has Copilots in Power Platform. But the fact that Power Platform and Fabric are cohesive in products, there's also from a marketing standpoint, Power BI is actually part of the Fabric ecosystem, but when you see it in all the marketing, it sits on the Power Platform, like a marketing thing. So there's cohesion across the two though, when it comes to the Copilots and the functionality.
Okay, so let's summarize this one for attendees. So Fabric Copilot or Fabric is not part of for the Power Platform. Is that right?
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah. A lot of Copilots. Which Copilots do you use, Heidi?
At the moment, I just got access to Microsoft 365 Copilot with my new employees, so I'm super excited about that because I love that one. The fact that you can do the teams, like summarize a meeting, summarize emails, be conscious of not putting your corporate data in there. Azure Copilot, occasionally in the portal, I use it. Power Platform, I played with some of it in its early stages where you take like a table and get it to create your data set for you. And of course, the Fabric Copilots, the multitude that we're going to show today. That was mine.
Excuse me. So in Power Automate Copilot, is it the one when I make the Power Automate that describe it, or the one? Yeah, it's free to use. Is that one? The Power Automate, the interface. So every time I can just ask Copilot, and then give me sometimes can very accurately create the action for me. Oh, just that one.
Yes, anytime you type anytime you get sort of prompts where you're saying describe,
Yeah.
generate this task for me, those are traditionally the Copilot experiences. Whilst the whole time, because when you're working with the Power Platform products and with Fabric, you're in a browser. If you're continuing an Edge and you hit the Copilot, that is also a Copilot. It just interacts differently because that one is more going, I know a bunch of stuff, but I have no idea what you're doing with your data platform. So it can answer general things and things that are publicly available, but it can't work with your data. Whereas inside the tooling, when you're doing the Power Automates and when you're doing the Fabric ones, those ones can help you build things and answer questions you might have around your data, but also describe what you're seeing on the screen.
Okay. Anybody using Copilots in their roles? Can I ask which Copilot? Yep.
Nice.
Yeah.
Power Automate Copilot.
Or Automate Copilot.
Yeah, I use a lot.
Yeah. I think I have somebody else was over there. Yep.
Yeah, in chat as well.
You are eating. You want to give it a go?
Yeah, 365 Copilot.
Thanks. That's one. Yeah. Was having a chat with Camilo before. Where is Camilo? Camilo? Yeah. Having a chat with Camilo. We were having this conversation. I was like, when was the last time that you used ChatGPT? And I was telling him it was 10 minutes before showing up in this place. All right. So that's how much I use some of those generative AI capabilities.
The point from the chat, the GitHub Copilot as well, which is cool. I love GitHub Copilot because you can use it in Visual Studio Code, but as a data professional, you can use it in Azure Data Studio.
Yeah, and it was the first one of the generation.
It was.
It was the
It's
first
getting
one.
a bit old now.
The leader.
It's like 2 years.
Yeah, but it does great. I mean, it's the more mature. Let's say more mature, the older.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's the most mature of the Copilots.
Yeah. GitHub.
Although I like this one, they specifically prefix it with GitHub Copilot. It's much easier for general conversations. People go, oh, you're using Copilot. And you're like, which one? Let me get out the Rolodex. This one, much easier. Everyone just says GitHub Copilot. So you know exactly which one they use.
It's like Copilot Studio, build your own
yes.
Copilots.
It's like the Copilot Inception movie. All right. Okay, let's move across. Okay, when we talk about data, because Fabric is an ecosystem where you are going to have some data. Okay, it's important, and then on top of that, you want to use Copilots, right? So it's important to clarify a couple of things here. So Microsoft is not going to use your data to train their foundational models. Okay? So if you create your own model with your own data, that's your model. You can do that, definitely. All the information is securely stored at rest and in transit. Everything is safe. You know, nothing's going to happen, but this big reminder, when it comes to Fabric Copilot, thank you, Heidi, for pushing me to go faster. Okay, this is important. What that this means essentially right now, copilots in Fabric, the models, they are available only in the US and I think France, and maybe let's say another region in Europe. So mainly US, and I think it's France only in Europe. Okay, so that means that when you're using Copilot, so the thing that you're going to see today, when we send the prompt, if our tenant is in Australia, that prompt is going to go to the US likely because of the network. Okay, and the completion, the results will come as well from the US. I think this is really important reminder. You know, if your organization has regulations, strict regulations on how you use the information. Eventually, this is going to be available in all the regions, and we won't have this big alert that you see here. So I think it's a timing thing, right? So we're so early in the game that it's only available in a few regions. When do you think that we're going to have Australia?
Not for a while.
Not for a while?
But before New Zealand, we'll get it before New Zealand.
Oh. Okay. So what if we want to get started with this Copilot in Fabric?
Yes, we've got a couple of little steps. So the first one, make sure we have a Microsoft Fabric tenant. So if you've never set up a Fabric tenant before, you need to first set up a tenant. If you've already got a Power BI tenant, what you didn't know behind the scenes is that Power BI tenant is already a Fabric tenant. So if you're doing app.powerbi.com, you're effectively in the Fabric in the Power BI experience. So we want to first get a tenant. Once we've got a tenant, we actually have to enable a capacity. All the Fabric functionality is tied to a capacity. So if you think about that as like a container with all your compute and your storage. With that compute and storage, it's set up on the Azure portal. So within Azure, as opposed to Power BI, which you used to be able to set up with Office 365, you'd set up premium capacities. With Fabric, it's all through Azure. So in Azure, you spin up a Fabric capacity. That capacity is then linked to the same tenanted domain. And then inside Fabric, or app.fabric.microsoft.com, you will then see the capacity there, and then you can put workspaces into the capacity. And from that point on, you can use Fabric items in those workspaces because they're using a Fabric back capacity. In this specific instance, because we want to use Copilot, it's one of the only features that is price limited or SKU limited, in that it's F64 SKU and above. So if you've never seen the Fabric capacities, they start at an F2, which retails for about $300 US per month, which is about under 500 and something Australian dollars a month. If you left it on the whole month, you can pause a capacity, right?
No worries, because your company is going to pay for it.
That's right. And even though the trials that you can get with Fabric, they are an F64 capacity, they don't let you use Copilot. Copilot is very hungry for consumption units, so they don't do it in the trial. So if you want to do it, you have to go into Azure, spin up a capacity that's F64 or above, then any workspace tied to that capacity can use the Copilot feature. So once we've done that, as David said, not all the regions. So Fabric is not available in Australia Central. If you don't know about Australia Central, it is the more protected environment for Australia. It's the third one in the region. You have to be whitelisted to be on it. You have to be considered, I think it's either healthcare, hospitals, finance, an important industry infrastructure, or supporting those infrastructures to be whitelisted into that region. Fabric's not available there anyway, so if you don't have to. And then when you enable Copilot, you're doing that as a tenant setting to basically say, yes, I understand that, as David showed that little note, that the data is potentially going to go to another region for processing the LLMs and back. And then if you, of course, you want to get started and learn more, you go to the Learn modules and you get yourself more in-depth knowledge. Then we'll show you some stuff today, but if you want to keep going with it, go to the Learn modules and learn a bit more, and then start playing with it a bit more. And definitely pause your F64 capacity if you are just mucking around with it, because it's about 14,000 Australian dollars a month. So it will blow your subscription quite quickly.
That's true. Let me see, if we enable Copilot for all the tenant, can I limit the use of Copilot to specific users?
Yes, so when you're doing that setup, another thing you can do on the tenant level, if you want to just have a restricted group of people playing with Fabric, you can restrict to a security groups or users, or you can do the inverse and say you can everyone except a security group or users. There's also things where you can delegate permissions down. So there's tenant level things associated with Fabric. There's capacity administration as well that allows you to toggle settings on and off. and then workspaces, and then items, and then inside the items. There isn't the option though to threshold anything. So you can't say, I only want Copilot to use 10% of my consumption units. All the experiences share the capacity. So every single Fabric experience that you have, from Power BI to data science to data engineering, data factory, data warehouse, real-time insights, and data observability, data activator, they'll all use the same capacity. So just be mindful of that. That's why F64 and above for Copilot, because it is a bit hungry for resources. Good thing. On to the
Right.
fun stuff.
Yeah, Microsoft pricing, right? Who understands Microsoft pricing? Nobody, right? Okay, I want to try to break it down for you to understand how pricing works from a Copilot point of view. And we look, of course, at the Fabric capacity and so on, right? Let me introduce one concept here. The first concept I want to introduce,
That's a big shit.
this one here?
Yeah.
Oh no, that's a slide. Is the tokenization. Okay, this applies to most of the. You're sharing a screen?
That way.
Ah, right, gotcha. I understand what you're saying. Okay, so you have to understand tokens. This works a similar way across different providers. So let me go here and just click in here. Tokens, right? So when you are working with large language models, you're going to put an input, right? And this is going to apply to the copilots. So basically, we can say something like, write it. Yeah, DAX query. I'm really bad at DAX. DAX query that returns the total sales amount for the table sales and so on, right? So what I want to show you here is that the number of tokens. This is the important bit. So when you send an input, a prompt to a large language models, it's going to break it down into multiple tokens. And Microsoft uses this as a unit of pricing for Copilot.
Like to the messages.
Everyone's different.
Yeah.
I don't know that details specifically. For those of you who don't know, Copilot Studio is part of the Power platform. It's different licensing, but generally speaking, when it's developer side, when you're actually building the solutions, it's tokens. When it's products like the Copilot Studio, which you can then make available, it's more sessions. Yeah, it's like who's chatting with that, how many sessions have they got active?
When you look at the Azure OpenAI, it works the same way as this, but the pricing model is different as well. So the pricing that we're going to see today applies to Microsoft Fabric, essentially. So this is how it breaks things down. So now imagine for a second that I get the DAX formula. So the answer is going to be a DAX formula. So Microsoft is going to pick out that answer, the results, is going to basically break that down into tokens as well. Okay? So that's one of the units of pricing that we need to understand. The next element that we have to understand is the pricing of the tokens. Okay, so you basically, as you see here, so the pricing for the input tokens and the pricing for the results is going to be different. So when you send, will this work? Yeah. Okay, so when you look at the input, the prompt, you're going to use these 400 capacity units that I'm going to introduce in the next slide, okay? But when you get the results, the completions, it is 3 times the input, okay? So now you have 2 concepts. So you know about the tokens, and you know that the results are 3 times more, I put it in Microsoft words, 3 times less cost effective than the input. Okay, and now we introduce the Fabric capacity. Because as you've seen before, we talk about 400 capacity units, 1200 capacity units. Now we talk about Fabric capacity units. So essentially, as Heidi mentioned, so you basically, when you go and get the Fabric capacity, the unit of measurement is capacity units, a combination of memory, compute power, bandwidth, and so on. You know, it's like a performance. So in each tier, every second you get a specific number of capacity units. So when you look at F64, so you will get 64 capacity units per second, you will get, 3,800 per minute. And if you move up, per hour and per month. So those are the number of capacity units that you can use to run your workloads in Fabric. And so those are the capacity units that you have to take into account and you're going to use when using Copilot. So now let's try to put everything together, okay? So let's say that we have, this is the price per capacity units. Basically, this is the monthly price divided this monthly price, the pay as you go, divided by the number of capacity units. So this is the price per capacity unit. So now let's say that we have an input. Write a DAX measure that returns the sum of amount in sales tables. Those are 16 tokens. And then the result, as you can see, is 45 tokens there. So if we do all the maths with Excel, you will get something like this. So 16 times 400 plus 45 times 1200, right? Divided by 1,000 because they charge you every 1,000 tokens, So that tells you how much you're going to be charged for that transaction, essentially. That's how it works if you want to break it down. What's important to remember as well, every time when you're having a conversation with Copilot, it's going to remember the history. And the reason why it remembers the history is because with each prompt that you send to Copilot, it's sending as well the history of your message. So that means that when you send a prompt like this one, if you send another message, it's going to send the two messages as well. It sends the history, okay? So that's how the number of tokens is going to add up eventually. I don't know how much of the history they usually, I don't know how many messages they keep. Maybe they keep 10. You can also restart the session and do things like that. But yeah, we don't have much control on how much of that history is being kept.
But like the best moving Copilot is 30. The actual conversation history.
Could be, yeah. In which Copilot?
There's for 365.
Yeah.
365 Copilot.
Yeah.
Once you get 30, it goes, no, I need to stop.
Really? It stops or it keeps?
Chat.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. So that's this is how you come up with pricing, right? So now, how much do you know? So let me summarize this. The reason why I'm telling you this, okay, is because there is a scientific way for you to come up with a use case for your organization, right? So how are you going to justify spending $14,000 a month? So this is how you're going to justify it, okay? So the goal of data in Fabric is to enable self-service BI, essentially. And Fabric Copilots are great tools for enabling self-service BI. Right? So that's your use case. That by itself is a use case. Your goal in the data team is to enable self-service BI. Not because I'm telling you this, because you pick up any book about data management and it'll be there as a key goal. Enable self-service BI. Microsoft Copilot is going to help you with that. On top of that, it's expensive. It is expensive.
But the other thing you can do, right, is you saw here David's run a couple of DAX queries, and next minute there's 45 plus 16 tokens used. Now imagine that isn't a data pro. Imagine that's a business user. They're going to be like learning on the fly. They could be writing absolute garbage prompts. So you can also put guardrails in. You can go, all right, before we enable you to have access to a Copilot backed workspace, we're going to make sure you go through a bit of prompt training. Then we're going to give you access to a sandbox area with other people. So you're not breaking our production. You're not even breaking our non-production for our enterprise, solutions. You're in a sort of a ring-fenced area where you can play with Copilot, but once someone uses all that consumption, you need to go wait till the next month, and then we go on and on and on. And the other thing is, if you're in certain organizations, whether it's government, education, non-profits, this is the public retail price. It's not necessarily the enterprise agreement price for those various different organizations. So always get whomever in your organization can talk to a Microsoft account person to go, what is the price we could get? But also be mindful of, this is targeted towards data pros and self-serving work with data. So it doesn't mean everyone in your organization is necessarily going to need the Copilot. And we're going to take you through the various Copilot experiences in Fabric. So you'll be able to go, okay, for our business analysts, they don't need it. For our data analysts, yes, we would like them to be able to use these Copilots. For our data engineers, absolutely, we want them to be as productive as possible because they're the backbone behind enabling that self-service. And even for our support staff, we want them to be familiar with Copilot so they can educate the users when they're raising issues going, oh, actually, your prompt could be a little bit better. Let's show you how to do better prompt engineering. Because it's like an art, not a science, but it is something you can put some guardrails around, but you also want to enable it. Because the more people you can enable to do better and do more, the more work you're going to get done, the more data things are going to come your way because people are going to see how popular data can be because they can suddenly work with a chat to go, hey, what's the fiscal year total sales for 2024 for this business unit? Boom, there it goes. Or a data engineer is like, I don't know how to write Python. Let me use the Copilot and I'll get that data engineering workload done and see how it works. You know, you can get them more efficient, which means your business is going to be happier because they're like faster insights, better insights, traceability, all these things. So it's got its pros. And you could have an F64, put a couple of workspaces in it. That's where you do Copilot workload, and then you could have lower F capacities that don't need Copilot. They're just there to serve you Power BI reports, or do data activator insights, or do your data engineering workloads. You don't have to have everything F64, so you can have more capacities.
And can we go like a F64 during business hours and then sneaky go down to F16?
That capacity unit can be scaled up and down. So you can scale it into F64, use the Copilot feature and scale it down. So it might just be, hey, next week you're doing a rollout, you know, you're trying to teach people how to self-serve. You're going to let them use Copilot to get a bit familiar with the tools. And then you're going to say, well, now that you've got that familiarity, you can go straight into using the prompt. And you don't necessarily need Copilot to help you.
Okay. So we don't have to organize information in a structured way or anything like that, right? We don't need good semantic models or...
We definitely need really good semantic models.
We're back at square one, right?
If you really want to use Copilot in the business user sense really well, your semantic model must be polished.
So good data models, good practices.
Good metadata management, good descriptions, make the best of it.
Okay, that's fair enough, I think.
It's good, it's good. See, Copilot's good, right? It's going to push the governance agenda for you. Because you're going to have these business users going, I tried to ask it this and I didn't get an answer. Well, there's a reason for that. You haven't told us what that report is showing or what it needs or what these fields mean. You just said this field is called FTE. What's FTE? Full-time equivalent, financial transaction inquiry, who knows?
Good point. So Heidi, maybe we have to talk about Copilots. It's been 20 minutes already. And
we can race through these ones. Let's race through. So these are some nice Microsoft slides that we borrowed. By borrowed, these are not developed by David and I. These are Microsoft partner advice.
All the nice things that you see today in this PowerPoint deck, potentially not developed by us.
We borrowed some things. But it is attributed, it's got Microsoft on the slide. So there's a lot of people think about Copilot because a lot of techies understand Copilots. They always think, yeah, it's a techie thing. No, it's not. It's for every persona. So you look at it from accelerating your productivity, doing things faster, more efficient, better, or just being your assistant. Because I don't know about you, but I can't remember every command in the world every day. So there are times where I'm spending a whole week in DAX and there are times where I'm spending a whole week in like PowerShell. Switching between the two, sometimes you forget what the commands are, you forget what the syntax is. Think about it from your developer front as a productivity improvement. If you can just quickly ask Copilot, hey, I need a DAX measure that's going to filter on this and show this and have it do it, or I need to do some data engineering to filter to only European sales, and it'll do that. We can go about the AI-driven insights. We can now use our data with those AI engines to get more insights of our data that we never would have thought of. We might not be asking questions that a Copilot-esque solution can go across our data and go, you know, have you considered this? Have you considered that? So you're getting more insights from it. And also, you know, you can use the generative AI and you can plug in with other platforms like your Copilot Studio, like, you know, Power Platform, all the different things. Copilot was at Azure OpenAI as well. We've talked a lot about Fabric. We've kind of assumed you already know about it, but in case you don't, Fabric is a software as a service end-to-end analytics platform, where end-to-end means different things for different people. So in some cases, end-to-end is going to be, you're going to use everything in this stack, right? So you're going to use Data Factory, which is your pipelines for your data movement. You're going to use data engineering, which is your data flow Gen 2, your lake house for storage, those sorts of things. You're going to use data warehouse, which is another option for organizing your data, doing things like dynamic data masking, row-level security. You might be doing data science, so you're doing machine learning models, you're doing experiments. Real-time analytics or real-time insights is more your IoT stream data sets or your, what do they call it? It's not incremental, but it's intermittent data feeds. So where your data feed is not constant, but it is continuously feeding you data. And so you're tapping into a data feed. That could be like an RSS feed. It could be like the Bureau of Meteorology's weather stats, whatever the case may be. Business intelligence is that Power BI space. It's visualizing your data. Everyone's already familiar with Power BI. If you're already using it, what basically happened is they said, Power BI is great. Let's go put an umbrella over the top, call it Fabric. And Power BI is an experience within Fabric. But Power BI can still exist effectively on its own, but it's now part of the SaaS platform. And then the last one, Data Activator, is only available in Fabric. It's not a product you can compare to pretty much any other product on the market, whereas the others you can go comparatively to Databricks and Snowflake and Azure SQL and Azure SQL DB, MI, all the things, Data Factory, Synapse. But that's where you can take insights off your data. What do we mean by that? Or insights and action. So you might have data points that say when, you're like, let's say OTR, and they have a whole bunch of fridges and they're taking the temperature stats, and you want to know if the temperature of a fridge goes over a particular threshold. Send out alerts, take an action. That's what Data Activator can do. Might be trending. You might be doing logistics and you want to know that if 3 packages suddenly go delayed, what does that look like? So you can do trending based on your data and then take action from that. So you set up a series of trends and go, if my data happens to reach these thresholds, start taking these actions. It could be send a Teams message, trigger off a ServiceNow, Heat, whatever incident management platform you have, trigger a new ticket in there to say, hey, someone needs to go look at this. We've got an alert in our data.
Let's just stop there for a second, okay? Because I'm a consultant, so I get paid for the number of services that I create, right?
You don't have to use them all.
So if I have to move data, which service do I need to create?
Depends.
But it's not in Fabric, right?
It is.
It is in Fabric.
It is in Fabric.
And if I have to store information, I have to create another service for my client, right?
In Fabric, though.
In Fabric now?
In Fabric.
As well?
We can use it in
Okay.
Fabric. So this has got your ingestion, your transformation, your storage, your visualization. It's all in the one end-to-end analytics platform, right? You don't have to use all the features. Sadly, you can't toggle them on and off either. So once you enable Fabric, you're kind of enabling the whole thing. But you can use them all. You can
Okay.
even do your forecasting in your data science.
It's not good for my business, Heidi.
And they all use the same data. That's the really cool thing.
All in the same place?
The unified one lake, which is this kind of like logical, mythical beast, but all the data lives in the one lake, which means before, so if you were doing a data estate for those multiple personas, your data visualization person, your data science, your data engineer, and let's say you're doing it in Azure Data, because we love Microsoft things. You might have had Data Factory to move the data. You had an ADSL Gen 2 storage with hierarchy enabled, so you can do lake architecture. Then you had Synapse because you felt like, let's do a bit of Spark. Then you went, let's go create Power BI and tap that into the serverless pool of the Synapse. And then you go, oh, the data science people, now we're going to move the data, we're going to copy it around so they can have access to it. Now, all of those experiences and all those products are using the one lake underneath. So once you bring the data into Fabric, you can make that available to your data scientists without having to copy it over and over again. Which is great. This is all there. But don't worry, security is there too. So many people thought security wasn't there because they had a roadmap item called Universal Security, One Security.
One security.
Changing names, so people assumed it had no
One
security.
access? One security? One
I think it's
access?
One Security.
Yeah.
And then it became Universal Security, and then now it's like Lake House Security. Basically what it meant was they're expanding on the security options. So they had stuff at the tenant, they had stuff at the capacity, they had it at the workspace, they had it at the item. Now they're doing within an item more granular security. So things you were experiencing in, say, Azure Data Platform, saying, hey, I only want someone to have access to this particular schema in a database, this particular report, or this particular semantic model. They're starting to put more and more of that into the Fabric item level security because everyone went, hang on, I'm going to give someone access to all the things. No, you can chart them up and share them too.
This one.
Yeah. But when we're talking about copilots, there's more than one.
How many?
All the things that are not sort of grayed out and in the background, all of them have a copilot experience. Which is always fun when you're talking to people because they're like, I use Copilot in Fabric. That's very good. It's great. I'm happy for you. Which one do you need help with? Because they're all different, right? They all do different things. And they do more than one bit of Copilot. Shall we demo? Oh no, we've got more things. Demo? This
No, the
one's in
workhouse.
browser. Start with warehouse.
We'll start with warehouse, the warehouse experience, okay?
That's where we store stuff, yeah? Where our data goes to be organized, like
Yeah.
an actual manufacturing warehouse.
All right, so this one is in the private preview. Public preview?
I think it's public.
Public preview, okay, if you, we
It's
don't
private
have
preview,
access to
talk
use
about
it. Yeah, all right, that's true. I'm cautious, okay? So we don't have access to use it, but the experience is this, right? So you have a warehouse in Fabric. A warehouse is like it's not like a relational database, but if you want to put a picture to it, this is like a relational database.
Yeah.
Like a SQL server.
Just Delta Parquet files underneath, not
Yes.
DFLD.
Yes, many files.
Yeah.
You know, so the idea basically is like you're going to hit the Copilot for warehouse. We're talking about the warehouse experience, and you can do a few things. The first one, you can ask about your data.
So similar to Edge, the Copilots in Fabric predominantly appear as a pane on the right. When they're interactive chat style prompts, they'll be a pane on the right. When they're interactive inside, like a coding area, like a notebook, they'll be inline.
Yeah, and what it does, you can see it in this screen, is it converts the prompt to a SQL Server query, and then it runs the query. So we're back to square one. So good semantic models, but also good database modeling, okay? Because this is coming straight from the warehouse table. Friendly names will help. Other of the capabilities that we have is that we can actually get information to, what's this?
So if you're not sure if someone gives you a piece of data and you're not sure what kind of questions you can ask of it, you can ask Copilot, hey, what kind of questions do you think I could ask about this data? Copilot might come back and say, hey, what about the top 10 sales for regions? Or what about, what was the most popular product for fiscal year 2020? It can suggest questions for you.
And think about which persona in your company is going to be using this experience as well, right? Is the CEO going to come here and start typing SQL queries, even that he gets some help, or she? It's unlikely, right? So, but those power users who already have access to the database or business analysts, this is a great tool for them to help them go be more productive as well, but to discover the information. From a development point of view, you can also get some assistance on importing table. So if you were going to import table, if I look here. All right. Yeah. You can also get a few tips on how to get data into your warehouse. I had this question from a client last week. I didn't know the answer. So I had to go and do some research. Auto-completion. So you're writing some code. Auto-completion? I think it is. It did? Okay. And you can also type a specific command, a prompt, and it will convert that to a SQL query.
Similar to what you would experience if you're using GitHub Copilot with the Azure Data Studio to help write queries, similar thing. It can just access some of the metadata.
What about if you are looking at explaining a query? So if you are not good at including comments in your queries, this has upskilled my game. So now all my code looks clean with a lot of comments everywhere. I look good. Let's say if you are having problems, on running a specific query, because you are a power user, so you're not an expert on SQL query, you also get help on fixing queries.
It's the old trust but verify. If you've ever watched like NCIS, isn't that trust but verify? Copilot can get it wrong, can get a bit confused. So it's important that you can use Copilot, especially for those users who are not super powerful in writing SQL. The fact that it can help them fix a query means you're not showing up the data professionals behind the scenes who are trying to build your enterprise data solutions. They can be off doing the hard stuff, and Copilot can be helping with that kind of that level 1-2 support, going, hey, someone gave me this query, my colleague left, or we had redundancies. I've got given this query, I don't know what it does. Explain, and then explain.
I wonder, how do you do like kind of quality assurance on the results that you get? Like if it's when you say give me the top 5 sales from the past year, it's quite easy to understand that, okay, this is the correct data that I'm getting. But
if it's more complicated, how can you make sure that the results that you are getting are actually?
Good question. Good, what do you say? Good data warehouse modeling?
Well, good morning, but also
And?
it's important to understand the data. So if you're not the person, the business user who understands the data, you're purely working from it. Someone's asked me a question, I'm going to build it. Then you want to engage with the person who has that business champion knowledge to go, hey, I've been asked to do this. I think this is the query to achieve it. I've looked at it from a technology standpoint. This query looks valid. Let me run it past the business user that champions that particular data set to go, is this correct? Because they may add things like, oh, I see you've got the top 5 sales, but you haven't excluded this particular general ledger code, which we do for all our corporate reporting. You're not going to know that. The Copilot's not going to know that. So it's important to line up with those business champions. Or if you're building new solutions, make sure you have like acceptance criteria. So if someone says, I want a new report to do X, you say, that's great. Can you give me some sample data points that I can work with? Because more often than not, when we're creating data solutions, data products, it's often someone's got a figure in their mind going, oh, I manually correlate all this data and I get this and I put it in an annual report off to the execs. So they already know what the figure should be. In the same way, you can unpack that query and go, okay, the query is saying that we've got 3 categories and we've got this. If I look at the underlying data, is there any category that's been excluded or that we would anticipate coming into that data warehouse that we need to take into account? Because that's the other thing, you're building based on what your current data warehouse has, but you're going to add more and more data to it. There's going to be more business logic changes. So you need to make sure that whatever you're building is accurate. It's kind of like that. Do the unit testing, do the verify. Ideally do it with a business champion because they're the ones who are going to have that intimate knowledge of the data. But in the absence of that, see if you've got any existing artifacts that the company has. They might have an annual report from last year that you can go, okay, I'm doing the figures for this year. If I just change it to look at last year and I can compare it to the annual report, is it matching? And try and line it up to a couple of different data points. Definitely go through testing.
And,
Question from online there.
yeah, so Pradeep has a question if this counts as tokens for the ongoing pricing.
Yeah, it will use CUs.
Yeah, technically, yes. I mean, I don't have the information with me, but yeah.
It's
Turn the egg on down.
It's got-
Anyone else freezing?
So
Yeah.
when we talk about the pricing there for Pradeep in the virtual space, so all of the Fabric experience is using the consumption units. So the Copilot, even just building a warehouse, it's all using the consumption units at the capacity. So it's not like it's a fixed price, but as David showed, you can correlate like, oh, if they did this sort of prompt, it would use this sort of consumption units. And also there's the capacity metrics app. So you can start to monitor your capacity going, okay, my data factories are using this, like my pipelines, my warehouse is using this, my lake house this, my Spark can do this. So you can look at what the consumption units that the different features are using, what the different items are using. But it's not like it's an add-on expansion pack. You can't just go, oh, let me add some more. Just scale up the compute.
If you were doing something though, like just putting comments on a SQL query, or just drop that into ChatGPT and have them put comments on a SQL query, why would I use Fabric to write a SQL query? Because I can get ChatGPT to write a SQL query. I can get a local model running on Llama to write me a SQL query.
So you,
Yeah, like it's giving it context, but I can give context in the prompt.
So you could,
Yes.
but imagine a business user who couldn't. This feature is not for everyone, right? The other thing to remember, if you drop that stuff into ChatGPT, there goes your IP. Your IP is now.
That's if I put it into the chat window, but I've
Yes,
got API access. to
Exactly, but you've got to be-
ChatGPT, So
You got to be mindful of that. If your business users don't know that and you tell them that, they will copy that. They'll open up ChatGPT and they will paste. And they will run.
I'm using ChatGPT as an example. So
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying.
any other sort of local model
Yeah.
or
You can do it other ways, right? Just because these features
it
exist.
just seems a very expensive way of getting it to write a SQL query.
Exactly. But if you think about this from.
Depends.
on
Pricing
data
is
points.
as well as arguable, right? So hiring a Power BI developer is $80,000, and that's a junior entry Power BI developer. So with
I wouldn't say this could replace developer because like if
this is the first Copilot. We're just in the first one.
if somebody with that experience, it's correct or not. It comes back to the whole thing of like whether it's valid data you're actually getting.
Yeah.
Like, you need to have knowledge before you can actually use something like this.
Yeah, it doesn't it doesn't remove change management practices. Okay, you're going to release this to the company. You have to think about going through a change management program to release it properly, to offer your employees the tools, the knowledge, and the data literacy that they need to use the tool. This is what we mentioned at the beginning from the get-go, right?
Yeah.
It's not like there are two ways of doing things anywhere in the world. Okay, we go, we enable it, and we see what happened, or we do it the right way. We take our time and we release it properly. So what happens is that most businesses, they will go there, yeah, let's switch it on and see what happens. And that it translates on risk for the organization. Right.
Some co-pilots you'll see it and you go, that's a waste of time. From your perspective and persona, it could well be right. But it's important to know that they exist. And also by enabling Fabric, the co-pilots exist. And if you happen to be F64 backed workspaces, co-pilots exist for everyone with that workspace access. So it's important just to know that they're there, whether they're valuable for your particular use case or persona. Like I look at the Power BI one and I just go, like, I'll use it for 5 minutes and that's it. Because for my role and how I do it, it's not efficient for me. But something like this, I look at organizations I've looked into that have 600 plus reports, no commentary, no documentation, and they don't know how to write a query. So if I get a junior, say a junior SQL developer in, and I'm more of a senior tech lead developer, and I'm having to do infrastructure management, database management, change management, source control management, DevOps, blah, do I want to sit there and explain every single query to the junior? No, what I'd like to do is go, hey, you've got this Copilot you have access to, leverage that, but then vet it. Because for them to write every single comment from scratch, when they have potentially no base knowledge to work from, is very slow and inefficient. But if I can get them using Copilot to go, okay, get it to generate and explain, and then you go vet what it's got. And if that's valid and sufficient, move on to the next query, the next one, and the next one. So it might just be I'm using it as a tool to help someone of a different skill set. But for other pro dev type people who can write SQL and read it inside and out, they're never going to use it. And that's okay. It's like Azure Copilot. I don't use it, but I know it's there. So if there's a particular persona or I encounter a customer that I go, oh, this will help you, like the DAX query view, that didn't exist up until now, and Power BI's existed for what, 10 years, close to 10 now? Didn't exist. But then you see it and you go, how many people struggle with DAX? They absolutely struggle with understanding it. Now DAX has an explain feature. That's going to enable a lot more people to go, you know what, I can try it because I've got a feature to help me understand it. It's going to be perfect, no, but it's going to be a hell of a lot better than having them sit there and read 10 books just to get started. Same with SQL. People assume that everyone works with SQL, especially with Fabric. People assumed that SQL was the key persona. Actually, a lot of the industry is actually coming from Spark, and they don't write SQL at all. So they write Python. And so for them, SQL is like, ugh. So if they see this stuff, they don't understand it, but they can understand Python. So to have stuff that helps them adjust between the two, it's good. But yes, it is that case that there are multiple products on the market. You can do the same thing.
Yeah.
And yes, you might want to guide your organization to maybe not use this specific feature to use, or you can something to use.
Yeah, like you
Or
do,
slice them off onto another capacity.
do your early queries like over here somewhere first.
Yeah.
Just sorry, like jumping more. So I heard Microsoft provides a service. So people from the organization, that is all thought about the data. So when the user clicks ChatGPT and then redirect the link to the company, so use the same experience as ChatGPT, but the data is secured in the organization. It's in that case we don't need a Copilot for some like simple, can save some of like this cost.
Yeah, you're shifting the cost. If you're using, say, like Big Enterprise internally secured, then yeah, you can use it. You don't have to use the Fabric Copilot.
And then redirect to the organization, so it's in the organization environment, but then you charge it not use Copilot.
Exactly. The thing to watch for with the Fabric Copilots is the button in the ribbon everywhere you see it is always enabled. The blocker to clicking that button and using it is click the button and then try and type something, and then it goes, oh, this is not backed by an F64 capacity. But when you extrapolate that out, it effectively means any user in your organization with workspace level access, so they go into a specific item, any of the Fabric items, and it's an F64 backed workspace, they can click the Copilot button and use it.
Unless They are not part of the group.
As in, so
Unless
you
they're
can
not
drop
part
them
of the
out.
security group, but there's no
Yeah.
Copilot security group. They need Fabric.
And that usually your assumption, it doesn't.
Right. So you can't stop.
You,
If you were on F65, you can't stop someone from using it.
There is no F65, but.
Sorry, but what was it? Sorry, 64. 64. Yeah, sorry. What?
No, 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 you're right. Listen,
well, let me say I'm cautious of time as well.
we'll
so-
show the tenant settings.
Yeah,
Yeah, you can
Yeah,
come
okay.
to the tenants.
Yeah.
But you didn't answer that.
No, no, that's what I was saying. We were gonna show you.
Oh,
the
okay,
tenant settings
sorry.
So you can see what level of control you can have,
Yeah.
but we'll do it a bit later.
look, this is for, there was one comment. Yep.
Yeah, just a quick question on pricing. So you said pricing is based on capacity units, right?
Yeah.
The higher the capacity unit, the higher the pricing.
Yeah.
So if somebody, so there are two, there's a two company. One is running in the lower capacity unit. Another is like more capacity. If they perform the same operation, does it mean that if you are running a higher capacity unit, you will get the charge more for the
No,
same operation?
No, same operation doesn't mean you're charging more or less. So the capacity units are for the fabric capacity. So an F64 gives you 64 capacity units. An F128 is like 128 all the way up to 2048, which is I think 148K or something a month. A lot of money. So no, it's the same, but there's other things that will impact your performance. But when it goes to Copilot, it's the same pricing. It's just how much available consumption units you have is based on the capacity you have. So you have to have an F64 to light up the Copilot aspect. But just because you've got an F64, F128, F246, F2048 doesn't mean those Copilots they don't price any different.
And the price of the activity will be the same across capacities. Okay, because the price, I didn't show it before, but the price of the capacity units is the same across all capacities, but the number of capacity units available in each capacity grows as you go up with the capacities. So the more you pay, the more you have to spend. That's how it is. But yeah, that's it, right? But the cost of the transaction will be the same across capacities. Yeah. So okay, yeah, those are the two different options. So you can disable the Copilot for
it's the same.
some groups.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can hear specific groups.
Yeah.
Okay. So that was the warehouse experience, and we still have 4 to go. But the data engineering experience and the data science experience is just one. It's combined. It uses notebooks. It uses Apache Spark behind the scenes. Let's go and have a really quick look at that one before we move to the good ones. So I'm here in my Fabric workspace, and I come here and say, I want to create a new node. Put it that way. And you will see that in my notebook, I will have the option to enable here, add my data. We need to point to our information. As any good demo, we start with AdventureWorks. Now I will have a few tables here, and I can enable Copilot already. You can see I can enable this bit. And when I get started, it's going to already ask me to import some libraries, essentially. So I want to hit this. It's going to take a minute to do so. You can do a few things with this experience. So you can, similar to the warehouse. So you can ask for Copilot to create code for you. You can ask Copilot to propose insights about your data. It can suggest as well specific machine learning models that you can use. It can fix queries. And what else? I'm sure it can explain the data sets, the data frames as well. So if you put the information into a data frames, it'll be able to explain that. And I don't know if I forget something else. Yeah. Look, I'll tell you so far, I'm not a Python developer, so I'm going to write a few things there so you can see how it works. And, you know, for me, sometimes to show a few things, it works if I want to build some notebook here. So you will see, enable this, second.
Another one I like while that's running. You'll see up the top there's one called Data Wrangler in the little toolbar. So Data Wrangler is kind of like Copilot-esque, but not the same. So it's for people who aren't necessarily sure how to write Python, but they get like a drag and drop interface with different functions. So you can go, hey, I want to replace all the nulls. You can just drag and drop that in, and it will do it. And then it will convert when you apply it. It'll convert I think it writes it in the canvas, depends on and then it'll shift it back to Python in the notebook. That's not Copilot, but it's another tool that can help you with the efficiencies. If you're not familiar with writing Python code, you see different transformations, but you can understand the drag drop.
Now we're taking advantage of this magic word, and then we select one data frame per table in the warehouse. Run that. It's basically going to generate our code in here. You can see that one is in red, so I don't trust it. So I'm going to remove that one. What else? So we can keep asking questions essentially, right? We can say code join all the tables. Again, we'll generate the code. We can also use the experience of asking, right? So let's copy this bit. Let's try to run this. Hopefully it fails. Okay. About this, and we'll say, okay, give me some suggested visualizations on this specific data frame. It will, you can see in the two options, it doesn't run the code. In the warehouse, it didn't run the code. It gives you the code, and it's up to you to make sure the code is right to run it. The same here, you know, it's going to give us the code, and it's up to us to basically get insights. Give me the code. Or Yep.
For me, my favorite thing about the Copilot is that it'll make me more efficient. But it ain't replacing my job, but it's also not there to do my job for me.
It's just like pair programming
Yeah, exactly.
with a person who you need to be really like on top of, like that they're doing the right thing.
And occasionally it can give you that out of the box thinking that you're just like, hey, I'm stuck, I can't figure out how to do this. Copilot is less in tune because it's just using the model in the different ways, and it'll come back with something you go, oh, that's different than what I thought.
Yeah. And the one for me, for this Copilot, I like it, not so much for the visuals, but essentially you can ask, I'm not an expert in Python or Apache Spark or machine learning, actually, but I can ask, can you give me some suggestions of machine learning models that they can build out from this data frame? And it will come up with recommendations. And you'll be able to go and create a machine learning model, you know, and go and use some test data. It will follow that process, so you can easily start building that as a small test scenario within your organization without knowing a lot of Python. Okay, questions of time. That was data science and data engineering. And we'll go to.
Can we do this one? Yeah, this is gonna be a hard top. Cool.
Do you want to go to Power BI first? And then
I'll
go
go
back to the other one? Any questions about the data science and data engineering experience? Any Python developers in the room? You will not use it. That's the reality. So when you think about most of these tools, they're not created to serve experts. They are built to serve users with some knowledge about what they're trying to achieve, but not really experts.
So, yeah, it's like a pair programmer. Make sure you Really checklist to do it because, oh my God, they give you some broken stuff sometimes.
Cool. So we've already got, this is Dataflow Gen 2. Now, as a data pro, I wouldn't use this too often, but it is a tool in our toolkit, so I will look to use it. This is what I probably see people coming from the Power BI world, the get data, the Power Query experience, probably using more so than solid data pros. We're probably going to use pipelines and notebooks more than anything. So with Dataflow Gen 2, a bit like if you've ever played with Power Query, it's step-based. So I can say, all right, the first thing I need to do is get data. So I'm going to tell it, yep, let's go get some data. And for simplicity, we'll use this publicly available OData feed. I'm just going to plug in, if I can get the link. Get the link from my other window. Can't see, but behind the scenes, my notes are in the Power BI file. Cool. It's going to bring the data in. And I'm just going to pick, let's say, customers, employees, order details, and orders. And hopefully that's big enough for everyone to see. Now that that's there, I don't necessarily know how to do all the different filtering and everything that I want to do. So with this particular data set, we've got a list of customers here, and we can see that they're from all different countries. So let's say I want to only keep a certain listing of countries. So let's say only keep UK customers. And I specifically use this example because it's in the docs, but it has different behaviors every time I run it. So this is going to go ahead and create a filter step in our Power Query for us. So we don't have to create the step, but you'll notice it says country equals UK. And so you may get different results. In the docs, this will probably say it filters to cities, Spain, France, London, and a few others. But different ways you write the prompt can often trigger it to go differently. So I did this the other day, and I wrote European customers, and it filtered to UK country, and therefore missed stuff. And I was like, so that's old trust but verify. Or something like, let's say we've got that, that's great. Now if I look at it and go, well, actually, let's look at my employee data set. Now that I've only got my Europeans, I might want to say, let's count the spelling. Count the total number of employees by city. Now this is a standard group by. I know it's a group by, but as a new user, I might not know this is a group by. So I'm going to let Copilot do it. It's going to create it, and it's most likely going to error. It's going to error because it gets the syntax wrong. Oh, today it's going to work. That's great. Most of the time this errors, and it usually errors because it does this. It doesn't put the underscore in there. Every time until now, every time I have done that, it has done it. It's like, damn, it's so hard. It's clever. But you see there, I don't have to know how to write the group by. I can just tell it, I want to know by city, what are the total number of employees? And you can write all sorts of things in there. So I could say, actually, now that you've done all that, I want a new data set, and I'm just going to go rogue and say, I want a new data set with the list of Australian rules football teams.
When you look at it, right, so I don't know if you had this scenario in your business, but I had plenty of time where business users, they wanted to import their own spreadsheet within their semantic model, within Power BI. Right? This is a way of basically allowing them to start using Power Query with their data sets so they can start building visuals.
This Copilot within the Power Query editor, is that constant across all iterations of the Power Query editor? So the version within Power BI desktop as well as Excel, or
no,
within data flows?
This particular Power Query is just within the Dataflow Gen 2 experience.
Okay.
And even though the Dataflow Gen 2 experience looks and acts very similar to the Power BI Get Data experience and the Excel Get Data experience, they're fundamentally like different products. So sometimes there'll be a change in one that's not in the other one. It's also very confusing because the way you interact with Power Query in Power BI Desktop, you're often doing the get data, you're doing the modeling, you're doing the Power Query all there. But once you've put data in Fabric, you don't necessarily go run Power Query to go get the data out of the lakehouse. You go straight into the model. So it separates that out from where it was before inside the Power BI space. But yeah, the other one's like a date dimension. Often, people need date dimensions. So you can ask it to go create a date dimension with specific columns in, and I want it to start from the 1st of January 2024 through to today. And it'll go ahead and create a date dimension for me. And then I can just rename that to go, yeah, that's my date dimension, and save it. In this case, I'm not going to, but we could. I'm just going to publish it without saving. The annoying thing with Power Query, and something to note, it's one of the only experiences in Fabric that's kind of modal. So once you've got a Dataflow Gen 2 open, you have to close it out to be able to open another thing. So I'm going to skip in now and look at real-time insights, and we'll do that one really quickly, not because it's not super awesome, but because it's less common for most people. So real-time insights is where you'll hear things about like Custo, query language, KQL, IoT, event-driven, event hubs, Apache Kafka, that sort of space. So basically I've got an event house, which I like to say is where the data goes to have a party. The lake house is where your data goes to chill out and just relax. Your warehouse is where your data goes to be organized and like compartmentalized. And event house is just where everything just likes to party and come in at different times. So with the event house, we get the access to a KQL database, and we can therefore run a KQL query set. So we can query it with KQL or with SQL when it comes to Fabric. But I'm not the best at writing KQL, so I can just use a Copilot experience to say, you know, show me the weather data. Show me the top 10 rows of weather. And it will go ahead and generate the KQL statement for me. And like with Warehouse, it doesn't run it, it just generates it, and then I can then insert that into the area to be able to run it. Take a little bit of time, will you, Copilot? Go for it. We have time. So we can just insert that in and run it. And now that's straight away going to give me the KQL to write the data. Now, is this great? Yes, for if you've never written KQL before or never intend to kind of write KQL. So it's mainly to help you write KQL, but with the event house, they actually added other things that can help us. So if I go back into my little workspace, into the event house, if I get it right, see in here, when you're actually looking to query, we can query the table. This is a KQL database, by the way, as I click around. So you see how we've got different snippets. So they actually give you snippets to try and give you a bit of a head start, and they do them in both KQL and SQL. So I can query a KQL database with T-SQL, and I have to query it with KQL. I find KQL, if you've never done it before, it's quite a juxtaposition to try and learn it. It's a bit like going from T-SQL to DAX, T-SQL to KQL, or DAX to KQL is quite different. So there's tooling to help you there. But on to the fun ones, Power BI Desktop. Now, while that's loading, oh, we could do other stuff in there, like we'll go real fast. They like us. These things generate money. They probably got a bit more. Right. The big screen. Right. Power BI Desktop. So signed in, and I'm going to make sure I'm accessing a database. A workspace that is backed by F64. The reason I say this is I realized the other day that my subscription was disabled, so I had to change it. This saves every time you open Power BI Desktop. It has the previous one you saved, so just be mindful of that. Now that I'm in Copilot and I go, yep, we got some data, we can get data in. I should just grab an existing one because that will be easier. Like this one. This has already got data in it. Oh, we got some financial data. Now, Copilot it up. Open Sesame. So a bit like you saw with Warehouse and that, we get prompts. So we can have pre-generated prompts. We've got the options to create a report for us, suggest what report we could have created, or ask a question of the data. So if I just say, yeah, go ahead and suggest some content that you think we might create with this financial data set, goes, all right, segment comparison. Sounds good to me. I just go create, and it's automatically going to create a Power BI report page for me. Now, this is not going to replace your Power BI report developer, but it is going to help them do quick insights. If someone just goes, here's a data set, what could you do for me? And you go, I don't know, I'd have to spend a week analyzing the data. Let me just get a head start here. You also notice if someone does use Copilot to generate a page, it will look the same all the time. It'll have this nice rainbow pastel background, and then all the different visuals will look the same. So you can kind of tell if someone builds a Power BI report using Copilot. Once it's created the page, though, it can't do modifications. So you can't say adjust this visual in this way. You can't say replace the font size with font 10 size. You can't do those sorts of things. So it's purely going to create the page and that's it. So you can see there straight away, It's better than me. Like, I'm loving Copilot because it's going to make my reports look nicer because I'm more of a data engineer persona. So I can get data, but making it look pretty is not my jam. You can also ask questions of the data. So I might want to say, what was the total sum of sales for the data? And it should come back with 118.73 million bucks.
You can see the difference here. There's no any code, right? So I think this is, if there was a good fit for leadership, management, and people who are knowing to write queries, this would be the one. So there's no here writing a SQL query or Python or anything like that.
So you can see we ask a question, we get the result. The other thing we can do, so that's sort of the main area there. Well, the other one that we've got is within the visuals itself. So we can use the narrative visual. I always get wrong. This one. With the narrative visual, it has the option for using Copilot. So you can use Copilot to help you with the narrative. So I can say, okay, Copilot, give me an executive summary and use everything you've got access to on this report, right? Let's just use these. So then that's going to go analyze those visuals and come back with an executive summary narrative across the data for me. So you think about what this does is you might never have thought of putting a narrative visual on your reports because we're so used to doing visuals in terms of charts, potentially pie charts, donut charts, line graphs, but also text-based information where it's giving the insights of the data. That's what the narrative's for, but you don't necessarily know what kind of narrative you want to create. So using the Copilot to help you with the narrative, you can get started and go, oh, that's really cool. I think my boss will like that. Or, my business unit, maybe I'll show them that feature. Then with the latter versions of Power BI Desktop, we have the option of DAX Query View. And by the way, all the things I've shown you up to this point, I'm using Power BI Desktop. You can use Power BI Service. So for Mac users out there, you can do it in Service. I just prefer to do it in Desktop. So inside Desktop, let's say we wanted to use Copilot to write some DAX, right? We're going to get it to suggest what measures we could do from our data set. Because, if you're doing consistent measures like totaling, count of rows, sum of values, you can have this generate those DAX statements for you. Sure, you could use Tabular Editor V2, V3 if you want the paid edition to generate this sort of stuff on the fly, but you can also use Copilot if you don't have access. So now Copilot's gone based on your financial data. I think you can have these measures defined. And then if you want to look at them to see what that's going to create, you can evaluate it as well. So if I just get rid of this evaluate top bit, because otherwise it won't run, I can then run that. Now this is not putting it in my Power BI. It's not putting it in my report. DAX Query View is kind of like an editor inside the Power BI Desktop experience. So I can have a look and go, yeah, based on what I can see, these are probably some good measures I want to do. And now all I have to do is update my model with those. So we could go ahead and push those model changes into our report. See that. I've probably already got them from the other day. Nope. Like me. But we can push the changes in. So the other thing is if someone gave you a whole block of DAX code and you're like, I don't understand what that is, you can use Copilot to then explain that, similar to what you saw in Warehouse, but against DAX. So I would use it as more like a training tool initially, or if you're taking over someone else's report and they go, hey, this measure's not working, you can do a quick explanation to get a bit of an idea, especially if you're like a data analyst or a data engineer who the CEO's got a report, it's wrong, you've got all of 10 minutes to try and diagnose the problem. You can use something like this to quickly go, right, it's coming from this measure, explain the measure so I can quickly comprehend as much as possible what that measure is trying to do. And then I can explain to the CX level what's happening and go, look, I need further time, but here's what I've been able to do in this short period of time to get you answers. So you can push those changes back in. We can publish that to the service and we can use this in the service. So using the features of Copilot for Power BI means we can quickly generate reports. So if someone sends you an Excel spreadsheet and go, what could you do with it? And you're not really a visuals person, you can use Copilot to give you a bit of inspiration and go, hey, yeah, well, we could do this. And then you can go from that, go, is this what you were thinking? And then you can adjust it accordingly. But it can't do everything for you. It can just give you a bit of a jump start. And then from the DAX side, you can get it to try and help. You can get it to try and help fix some DAX if it's wrong. You can go, hey, this is what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to get the total sales filtering against this particular thing where the average house price is this and this other thing, and have it generate all the DAX for you. But it's also going to highlight to your organization that if that metadata around that model is not good, Copilot can't really can't really make it better, and you can't get the best out of Copilot. Like, you're going to ask it so many prompts, and it's just going to be, I can't help with that. I don't know what to do with that. You know, so it's important to know that this is a tool that you can leverage, and it can make you more efficient. You can get more insights. It can kind of, you know, sometimes your day to day gets a bit mundane, and you go, look, I want a bit of inspiration. Let it generate a report for me. And you're like, ooh, that's really cool. I like doing Power BI myself for internal stuff. Tenant admin is a good one. But yeah, I think that's all the demos we have. Did we cover it off as much as possible? Yes.
Late and a bit early, just to go quick time. Is everybody who wants to stick around? I do have the prizes as well. We'll do this.
Thank you.
No,
Thank you all for coming. I'm both later. If you happen to have a Visual Studio subscription, if you sit in that space, you can spin up Fabric capacities and they'll appear on your Fabric tenant. And if your organization doesn't realize that, they probably haven't turned it off. That's how I like.
Sharing, I share one of the board rises.
Oh, you share straight into Teams. What about that?
Oh, there we go. Sure.
While Daniel's loading it, look up, level up your data from David. There's an event happening end of November in Brisbane. Paid conference, super awesome. I can't make it. There's also Definity happening in Melbourne, Sydney, and Auckland this year. It used to be only in Auckland. They've split it and they've done 3 single day events. Another reason to go to those ones, there are people from the product team. I know specifically Julie Cosmano is coming down to Australia and New Zealand. She's in the business application space. She works on a lot of the AI Copilot studios on the Power Platform side. She's also originally from SQL Server and used to work here in Australia. We used to work in the same company. Also, you've got Zoe Douglas, who that DAX query view I saw. She is the PM for that in Power BI. She's coming down to Australia. CAT team, customer advisory team, Darren Gospel, who built DAX Studio, is going to be at least Melbourne and Sydney, I think. So do check those out. Also, look at what the user groups in those regions are doing, because sometimes if those people are going to be in the region, they'll go to the user group and they'll present. We're trying to get them to Adelaide, so keep hassling them. At every event I go to, I hassle them, and I'm still like trying. So the more people who can.
So we've got a t-shirt, a Copilot one, which looks like this. If you're registered, I've got the details in there. I've got all the registrations down there. I'm really lazy because I use random.org for this sort of stuff. So
Those are cool.
whatever the row number is equals whatever the number we've got.
See?
Wonderful, 47, wonderful, 48, so we go, 48, and we go generate, and we'll look at 39. There you go. Congratulations, Sean.
Jealous.
That's yours.
Love it.
And I've got some more as well. You're a leader, so how do you want to do
Tuck it in.
that?
I'm going to throw it at that.
We're going to do the Fabric exam. Anyone want to do the Fabric exam? Microsoft Fabric certification?
DP 600.
No?
Or is
41.
I watched your training session.
The live
You
land?
showed,
that is me? The
and
different hair?
One time was learning session, one time was training session. One time you did that with Rocket from American. Question and answer.
Treb doing, was it Treb and doing the intro?
Yeah, it's Ireland is the GP.
Oh, 41. Change. Yep, there you go. Then, you're on. And what else? We got the current because it's fabric. We'll do another
All
random.
the way from Las Vegas. Via Seattle.
Was it used in beer pong? Used in beer pong?
Cabinets.
No.
Fresh one.
Storage.
Right, fire. Regenerate. 12. Daniel Agent, he's not here because I know him.
I have this habit of when I
So-
travel to the US, I take
Adam
the stairs,
Simpson. That.
come back with swag.
I'm still down.
I need to go with that.
Close enough. It's
I've already got one.
Yeah.
You can
What number are we? 24. Kirsten. No. All right, we keep it rolling.
Who didn't get something?
On you going again. Yeah, 11. Dang. There we go. Dang, you won. There we go. We've got one more. It's a board game. And we'll keep rolling.
Don't worry, I've got my 10 of those. You a badge person?
Number 4.
Anyone a badge person?
A T.
Or
A
know
T.
people who are badge
T.
people?
We need lanyards, badges.
Look.
You don't want to be sure.
Generate again. 22. Cannel?
Like a badge.
No.
Yeah.
Go. Keep going. 36.
Oh, the game.
Samira.
Is this the game?
Who's my name? Yeah, we're doing it. We're doing it.
The game. Australian style.
Yeah, that's my one. I actually did it.
Family friendly.
34.
Don't put
34.
it's not suitable for children.
Roger. There you go. Yours. Cool. So a little bit of context on that. I released that board game 2 years ago. Did all, yeah. Don't octopus is me. So have fun. It's a similar to Australian Cash Stream, which was released in '86, and I got the rights for that. And I know the creators and yada yada yada. We got 42 companies on board that are South Australian nationals, things like that, and have fun. Thank you thank you everyone for coming to this afternoon's user group session. I know we're a bit over time, and it's all just wigging out now.
Thanks for hosting. Thanks for the virtual attendees.
Thank you everyone online as well. We had a few. Our next meeting is on November something. I think the 2nd or 3rd. I can't remember.
We will have a Fabric and Power BI youth group session. I have the whole roster till March next year. They will be.
We're on the
We're going to pick a new date for it, but that will mostly be virtual. So we'll let you know about that. We hope to do the first Tuesday of the month.
All right, cool.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of the evening. I know we've gone over time, so I do appreciate that. So thank you, everyone. And we'll see you next month on the 2nd.
That's it. How you doing, honey?
Good mate, how are you?
It's been forever.
No problem. Thank you.
Photos. I'm like, I see people by proxy, man. That's great.
Oh, thanks so much.
Yeah,
You know,
Yeah, any questions?
They are often at different events, like 3 different data. If you want to know about user groups and stuff, or any of the topics,
Yeah.
you don't realize there's like 13. Like,
So
just a new one just got like data-based user group Australia. With Crystal.
Ah,
They just fun one.
I guess another tonight.
But yeah, so like, if you listen to learning.
We got a snowflake one is here as well. Yeah, I've seen that. I've never actually been.
Stuff you want to know, interested in. I'm more Microsoft stuff.
Very cool. I think out of all the capital cities, we've got the most vibrant community.
Because
Yeah, it's good.
Let's say you're in the Power BI space and you want to get really good at modeling and
So
data.
tell you what.
Market research probably.
No, Copilot. I mean,
Do the floor.
So like their res around is out of New Zealand, he's delivering his calls in like different Australia. A lot of them don't come to Adelaide sadly, but it's handy to know. Because there's a difference between you traveling to like the US or trying to attend a session virtually, when you can fly over to
Sí, pero
get the company.
me queda
and
ya
for a day.
simplemente
And go, you know what?
Sí,
I want to see some sessions, but what a lot of us do is
porque
like
cuando vas a hacer el examen,
virtual
todavía no sé
distribution,
de
right? Especially if you get access to the customer service routine, but yours not Fortune 20.
Y lo que he hecho, sí,
But a conference is now highly accessible. So you can walk up to Darren, who built that, you know, go, hey Darren, I want to ask you about platform.
Yeah, no,
Okay. You know, so I went
Yeah,
before I was an
sorry.
MVP, I used to go to
When that's
conferences
a-
globally
that's
and
a-
you
it's
start to
not
network.
plataforma,
I read
come
books, like I've been sitting at a dinner
Snowflake or
table after a
Databricks.
conference and I'm like, oh my
Eso,
god.
esto la
Let's
Microsoft
train
puso
young,
todo
like the parrots. I've been following his YouTube around
más
parrots.
difícil
And
para
it's like
nosotros si quieres
physically
aprender
there,
porque es solo un producto,
and you start to
pero
learn
es un
their
producto
hobbies.
con
Thanks everyone.
You don't realize the product team, a lot of the
Todavía es
product team
difícil.
is like on Twitter.
Yeah.
I talked to Christian, I talked to
Y lo puedes empezar a mirar
I
incluso
tweeted
cuando,
the Azure
no sé si lo
DevOps
haces,
Twitter
pero
handle,
cuando